What's up, brothers? We're back. Time for another tier list video. Today we're going to be covering the Twilight Masquerade. Yeah, we're going to be covering Twilight Masquerade format. That is the NAIC format, and that is what's releasing in about a week, I think, on PTCG Live. Maybe it's 2 weeks now. I don't know when it's going to drop, but the format is definitely seeing a lot of stuff shake up. We've seen our Lord and Savior Charizard finally drop in popularity. Thank you for that. And of course, we've seen the rise in Raging Bull. So without further ado, we've got a lot of decks to cover. So let's just jump right into it. Starting with Dialga here. I think Dialga still remains pretty solid. I think maybe it's not as great. It still seems like a solid B tier deck to me, right? I really struggle to put it in S. I really struggle to put it in A. But I think the deck still definitely has its footing. I think it's definitely B tier seems really solid for it. Probably really high B tier. I think the deck, like, I still think it's going to see a lot of success, but I think that decks like Dragapult definitely are going to become issues for a deck like Dialga. But who knows where it's going to play out. Miraidon rising a lot does mean Dialga does take that good matchup. So we'll have to wait and see where it falls. But I think as of right now, it's probably a safe spot to put it in B tier. Entei Valiant, once again, don't play this deck. I know I gaslit it a little bit. I was like, you know what, maybe this deck's good. Cook up a little bit. Don't cook up a little bit. Deck is still not good. So yeah, it's going back in the D tier. Arctina still feels okay, relatively, right? I think a good Dragapult matchup is pretty solid to have right now. You still take a good Charizard matchup. Your Donnie matchup feels pretty okay to me. Maybe it's a little bit bad, but I think, like, if you were to, like, I know some people were straying to Prime Catcher. I think if you go back to playing Maximum Belt, I think it makes the Donnie matchup really good. I think it keeps your Dragapult matchup really solid because, like, you can just sit and go Giratina, kill a Dragapult, and then just, like, Arceus early game is really strong. So for that reason, I still think it's probably going to be an A tier deck. I think the deck is really good going into this format, and I don't think it loses anything. I don't think it gains any bad matchups. Raging Bolt becoming more popular might become an issue for it, so maybe it's going to drop down to B tier. But right now, looking at it, I'm like, yeah, it seems pretty good. Coming up next is Dragapult, and I think this is probably an S tier deck. I think we're probably going to be entering the Dragapult tier 0 format, which is unfortunate. But you know what? I actually really think that it's probably a pretty high skill deck. I think that there's going to be a lot of it at NAIC, and I really like playing against Dragapult for the simple reason that it is very easy for Raging Bolt. I think a lot of people are definitely going to be playing to tech and counter Dragapult, so I think if you are playing Dragapult, watch out for that. I think it's kind of like Charizard of last format, where, like, if you aren't playing to beat Dragapult or you aren't playing Dragapult, you're probably not playing the right deck. So for that reason, I think it's just really strong, and I'm just going to put it in the S tier for right now. I think just by itself with Xatu is very, very good. There's a lot of partners you can put with it. Pidgeot, Charizard, which is down here by himself. Where is he at? He's somewhere. We'll find it eventually. But Pidgeot, Dragapult, Charizard, Dragapult, there's just tons of different ways to play the deck. Great Tusk Mill. Probably don't play this deck. Definitely D tier for me right now. Deck just doesn't feel well positioned whatsoever. Arc-Chark kind of feels like it gets worse, unfortunately. I think Dragapult being able to early game go, yeah, I'm gonna place 6 damage counters on your Pokemon, start setting some stuff up. I think it just might make it a little bit hard. That being said, if you can go up into Armarouge EX before they place damage counters, you're probably okay. But, like, if I'm playing Dragapult against Arc Armarouge, like, if you bench 2 Armarouges or 2 Charcadets, I'm just spreading 3 damage to both. Just that way, it's just kind of helping to spread it out. Also, if you spread 6 to Armarouge EX, it is just being one-shot by Dragapult. So it's kind of sketchy. I think with Dragapult getting as big as it is, it's probably not the right time to play Arc Armarouge, but I think it actually might still be a pretty good meta call. Future Box, don't play this deck. Deck still sucks. Deck will always suck. Deck will forever suck. Don't need to explain anything else. It's just not good, right? Lost Box does get better. I think Lost Box is very good coming into this next format. I think it's probably one of the best decks, probably a top 5 deck in the format. Tatsugiri is really, really good. Sometimes with Lost Box, you really struggle getting Roxanne or something when you've got a Pokemon in your active spot that maybe isn't going to be the most beneficial. You go into 2 dead cards. But with a card like Tatsugiri, I'm starting to think that the deck might actually be really viable again. And, like, that's not to say it's not viable right now in our current format, but I think that it's going to be, like, very, very good again. And I think that's really cool. Your Dragapult matchup might be a little bit bad, but being able to utilize like Roaring Mooney X seems pretty solid. Maybe you turbo to 10 really fast and just start pinging Dreepies and killing them. I think like there's definitely ways you're going to do well. Iron Hands is also pretty solid into the matchup. So yeah, I think it really depends who starts rolling first. And from what I've seen, you can really do that with Tatsugiri. Lost Zone Tina is another deck that I'm like, yeah, this deck probably is okay, but it might also just be bad. Tina's one of those things that it's like, can feel really good, but can feel really bad at the same time, right? Like into certain metas, it's strong. Into certain metas, it's really bad. Chen Pao is going to probably still be very, very popular as it is still able to kill Dragapult. So I think it's probably not ideal to be playing Giratina right now. It's probably going to be a B tier deck. I think just having Comfeys that are liabilities, like stuff that like, if I'm playing Dragapult and I'm playing against your Giratina, I must just start spreading a ton of damage counters and not letting you like bench more Pokemon and then like just take a big turn one time and take you down like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 prizes in a turn, which is crazy to me, right? But like, let's say you're spreading damage to all the bench and then to the Giratina V that's on the bench and they're still just trying to build themselves up. You can just start taking crazy knockouts. Gardevoir feels scary. I can say that much. The thing about Gardevoir is Dragapult, I'm pretty sure just destroys you. Dragapult's definitely a big gatekeeper in this format, right? I still think Gardevoir is okay, probably better than Arcchar, but like, the fact that Dragapult can come down and just go, yeah, you see your Screamtail on the bench? Yeah, I'm going to damage it for 10 damage just so that you can't place 8 damage counters on it. Or I'm going to spread my damage perfectly so that you maybe can't double attach to a Corellia to retreat. Because if they put 4 damage counters on a Corellia, it can't retreat. And that is what's really unfortunate. I think a deck like Dragapult is definitely gatekeeping Gardevoir, but who knows? Maybe Gardevoir is still going to be very good. Speaking of Gardevoir Bolt, don't play this. Charizard Pidgeot. Now, this is a deck that I'm like, maybe it's still really good because I do think it really can be, but I think Dragapult is probably just better. I think Charizard is probably still a very good deck in the format. I think it's always going to be very good. Probably still an A tier deck to play. Your Dragapult matchup is definitely messy. If they're smart, they're going to like play it out so that you're not dealing too much damage so you're not able to one-shot a Dragapult. But sometimes they can't do that. And once again, you are just Charizard, which is the best card in the format. You do have access to Pidgeot, which is the best engine in the format. So it's just, it can be really, really strong. And Charizard, we just know it's that deck. Right now, in our current format, everybody's playing to beat Charizard and it still just isn't happening. Greninja's probably C tier. I really like Greninja because I'm a Rapid Strike guy myself. But I think just with the way the format is turning out, I don't think Greninja is that great. You have to bench some low HP Pokemon, which once again, Dragapult is really strong against. Manaphy is still in the format, so Greninja is not great against that. But that being said, I don't think your Dragapult matchup is all that horrible. I don't think your Charizard matchup is all that horrible. Obviously, like your Arceus matchups are really solid. Greninja seems like a deck that could be really fun. 310 HP is pretty strong. It might run into some consistency issues, but I do think like just getting like Evolve and then 1 Water Energy on is probably fine. And then I have seen some people like pairing it up with cool partners. Let's say you're coming up with Baxcalibur. Let's say you're coming up with like just tons of different ways that you can power him up. And I think that's a really cool thing with the deck. Frostlass, probably don't play this. It's actually super fun. Like I've tested it a little online in like a control-esque deck where like you're just placing a ton of damage counters and dealing low amounts of damage, but like with all those damage counters spread, you're just dealing good amounts of damage enough, right? And I think the deck is really fun. Probably a good local troll deck, but probably not great. Charizard Bib, still probably don't play this deck. Barrel is very easy to kill with Dragapult. Like Dragapult can go swing Charizard for 200, swing Bib for 6, swing Charizard for 200, kill it, swing Bib for 6 and kill it, and that's a 3 prize in 2 turns. And there's kind of nothing you can do against that. Right, I don't think Charizard Bib is the correct play at all right now. If you're playing Charizard, just play Charizard Pidge. C-Pow still feels very good. I know that people are definitely scared because they're like, oh, well, C-Pow, your Baxcalibur is just gonna die due to Dragapult. And yeah, probably, but at the same time, I'm like, it's still C-Pow, and maybe they're just not getting Dragapults into play fast enough. Like, if you go first and you can go like, oh, I'm gonna Greninja to Dreepies, or hey, when your Dragapult kills my C-Pow, I'm gonna go Iron Hands on anything that's on your bench that isn't the active Dragapult, right? C-Pow is still able to one-shot Dragapult, so I think it's still a very good deck. I think that C-Pow is definitely the deck that I like for right now. I'm like, this deck is farming, right? I know right now everybody's like, Charizard's best deck in format, but like, you look at the way the money's actually dispersed, you look at like Lucas Zing and them, bro, like, it is raps. Like, they are farming so much money from us, fellas, and C-Pow is just that deck. Lost Zone Bolt is... I don't want to glaze, okay? I'm going to preface that. I don't want to glaze the deck. I don't want to say the deck's better than it is, because it probably isn't. But I feel like it's really well positioned, actually, and Tatsugiri means that your late game plays are a lot better. And what's really great about this, so the issue with Raging Bolt, and that's with most variants in general, is that you don't have a one prizer that's reliable enough to attack with. But with Lost Zone Bolt, you do have that, and you do have the ability to utilize Iron Hands. And I think the deck is actually pretty solid. Your Dragapult matchup feels relatively free. Like, they can spread damage to your Comfies and stuff, but like, if you're being able to like amp you very much one turn, and then swing with Raging Bolt one turn, and then like just Sableye to spread some damage, like, you're probably fine. I think the matchup is really good. That being said, I think Raging Bolt, like, C-Pow is quite a difficult matchup. Lost Box is probably not the easiest, but like, besides that, Gardevoir is also pretty hard, but like, I think the deck is relatively okay right now. Not too much else I can say about it. It'll probably see a little bit of success. I don't know if it's what I'm going to be playing to NAIC. It'll be a Bolt variant of some sort, but I'm not sure what it will be. Shock's Bolt feels very good into this next format. Like, I think it's actually very, very good. A B tier deck for sure. Your Dragapult matchup is beyond free. Your Miraidon matchup is beyond free. Your Arceus matchups are really free. Your Control matchup can be a little sketchy, but I think it's still relatively easy. Your Stall matchup feels very free. And like, just most matchups in general, I'm like, wow, these are relatively easy to beat, right? And I think that's really good. And especially like looking at the top decks in the format, I think Raging Bolt is definitely really well positioned. Regular Roaring Moon, don't play this. Dragapult Charizard's one of those decks I'm like, might be good, might not be good. Probably just gonna go maybe above Arc-Char Cadet and probably above Raging Bolt. Probably like just in the top 10 decks, right? And I think that's relatively fine, right? Like, it's probably around that number 10 spot. I think it's a good deck. I don't think it's a great deck, and sometimes that's just how the format feels. I think that Xatu's better because it's drawing you more cards. And I know Charizard is a great late game attacker. Charizard's great at powering up Dragapult, but I just think it's better with Xatu. You don't have to worry about two prizers on the bench, and like Charizard, you don't have to worry about having tons of rare candies to get everything in play. So yeah, I just think relatively just regular Dragapult is better. Turbo Hands is a deck that I'm like, this deck could be pretty good next format. Like, hear me out. It's like, you're able to amp you very much really early. Dragapult can beat you. Probably not the easiest matchup for you. But I do think that like the deck is probably situated relatively well into the next format, especially if people are playing block more. I think your block matchup is probably okay, right? Maybe it's not, but I don't really know. But like being able to take two prizes off every Snorlax feels pretty good, and you're able to swing that 200 damage pretty easily. You're probably gonna have to start playing a little more switch cards, but that's probably a trade-off that is worth it to take. Arcagoos, probably don't play this. I just don't think it's situated well. Spathra feels honestly pretty bad. So in my testing, it's been like, if I don't set up very quickly, Dragapult kind of just destroys you, which isn't great. But like, you take a good Charizard matchup. I think your Lost Box matchup is pretty okay. And relatively, I just think the deck itself is pretty fine. It's probably going to go another B tier. There's going to be a lot of decks in B tier because like the format is so like unknown kind of, and like it's hard to feel what is good as like everything's going up in percentage and down in percentage, and we don't really know what's happening. So right now, B tier is probably like this is a safe play for NAIC. If you're going to play in NAIC, I'd probably feel fine playing it. Goldengo, I don't even know how to feel about this deck. This deck gives me hope so much and then crushes me down. Feels criminal to put it in C, but I think I'm just going to put it in C tier. You're able to swing Dragapult for a lot of damage, but like Dragapult can like just set up knockouts on your Goldengos, so it's kind of just a 2-2 prize trade, right? Like, if they do 60 damage to a bench to Gimme Ghoul and 200 to the active, and they just keep repeating that, right? They're just beating you, and that's what's unfortunate, but I think it's okay. Palkia still feels pretty good. Being able to use Greninja's all right. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Goldengo. I think the deck's just fine. I don't think it's great. I think it's fine. Block feels very good next format, to be honest. I don't even know where to put it. I want to put it at the top of B, to be honest. I think the deck is like genuinely very, very solid. Yeah, like the deck, like something about it is just like this new flute. I forget what it's actually called translated to English. But like being able to just look at the top cards of your opponent's deck and go, yep, that basic Pokemon's coming onto your bench. It really means that like it's just nothing is safe when you can go, okay, well, Erica's Invitation in your hand. Oh, you've got no basics in your hand? Yeah, let me play this flute and look at all the cards in your deck. I think it's definitely a sketchy matchup. If you're not beating Snorlax, you're probably in a rough spot. That being said, like, Chien-Pao is probably still relatively fine. Snorlax is one of those decks that'll never be big enough in popularity that you really have to worry about it, but I wouldn't say not to play. Like, a counter to it, right? Like, don't go into an event going, there's no way I hit block lags. Ancient Box is dead due to the dragon. Raging Bolt and Infernape, don't play this deck. Seems really fun, but it's definitely not functional. I really like it, but definitely not good. Okidogi, don't play this deck. Okidogi's really fun, actually. Surprisingly, like, if you play it like pre-release format style and you go like Infernape build, or what I've been really experimenting with is like a Cypher Maniac Gutsy Pickaxe build, it feels pretty cool. Like 230 HP on a basic Pokemon that is a one prizer with that can swing 170 is pretty okay, right? You can't really complain about that one. Moon is another deck that I'm like, it's probably not great. Dragapult being able to go, yeah, you've got Roaring Moon. I'm actually gonna put this in C tier. Probably better than Ancient Box, but probably not great. Like the issue I'm having with the deck right now, and it's not a bad issue. Well, it is a pretty bad issue. It's like when you play against Dragapult, okay, you can go Ancient Booster onto my baby Roaring Moon. They're still killing it in one shot, and then they're just placing damage on your big Roaring Moon, which means you can't gouging or you're just gonna die. And it's just an awful game, right? I just don't think that matchup is actually good or winnable, like, whatsoever. As long as they play properly, you're just probably losing. Or like one play that I found is super annoying because you can go, oh, well, I'm just not going to play my Roaring Moon EX early. That's fine. You're going to bench it and then go Frenzied Gouging. Whatever. Good for you. I think that's a fine play. But like, what feels absolutely ridiculous is like, they could go, oh yeah, I'll boss your baby Roaring Moon. I'll kill that. Oh, and I'll kill your big Roaring Moon that's on the bench. And you're like, I lose now. And sometimes that's just the format. I do think that the deck is still fine, though. I've been rambling about it for way too long, but I think it's still okay. Lugia is a deck that I'm like, wow, maybe this gets really good, guys. Shadow Zach Lesage, but I think he's definitely right, and the deck does get very good. Probably another A tier deck. There's a lot of decks in A tier, to be honest, but like, Lugia feels really strong, and you're getting a lot of good cards. This new Rainbow Energy, you can use Iron Hands again. It's kind of starting to feel like colorless Lugia, or not colorless Lugia, like Silver Tempest Lugia, and I think that's really good. Donnie with Regieleki, don't play that card. Lost Zone Charizard, don't play that. The Ogre Pawns, as much as I'd love to say play them, don't play them. Arcgoo Picks, don't play them. Dragapult doesn't have an ability. Diplin, like Festival, don't play that. A Teal Mask Ogre Pawn with Raging Bolt is kind of in the same spot as Sandy Shocks. I actually really like this deck. It's actually like my #1 pick for NAIC right now. But I think that just, it's good, right? You take a good Dragapult matchup. You're probably not still winning Charizard. You don't really have a one prizer to attack with, so Charizard is still beating you, but that's okay. You win some, you lose some, and that's just sometimes how it goes. You're probably still losing to Lugia, but like, you can't win them all, right? The deck actually does feel pretty good. I found a pretty functional list. If you're interested in any of my Raging Bolt lists, I am hosting a masterclass, and my Metafy is in the description down below. So check that out. Shameless plugs. Moving on to Miraidon. Miraidon's a deck that I think is okay. There's a lot of decks in B tier, actually. Miraidon. Where do I want to put this guy? Maybe above block. Miraidon feels like it's a pretty good deck in the format. Beating Dragapult's really good. Your CPAP matchup is probably relatively fine. It's pretty beat stick. We all know what Miraidon does. You do lose Flappy, so that's unfortunate. But like, if you're using Iron Hands, you do have Heavy Baton now. Feels pretty okay. I don't know what lists I actually like the most, but I'm sure Miraidon will still probably be a functional good deck. If you're playing beat stick, probably just play Miraidon. Iron Thorns EX, probably don't play that deck. Polkabolt, probably don't play that either. Torterra, don't play that. Bennett Salvatore is probably another C tier deck. I think it's probably the worst C tier deck, but I think it's relatively fine. With Lost Box coming up a lot, maybe Bennett is good. And the fact that like item lock is probably really good. Dragapult is probably not struggling with you too badly, but like maybe a little. It depends on the engine they're running. Like if they're playing Charizard, they're probably not having a great day. Not being able to play items is unfortunate, but I just don't think the deck is greatly positioned. I think it's fine, but not great. Luxray, probably another C tier deck. Luxray feels pretty good as a control card. 120 damage, 100 with a DTE, and being able to just discard any card is relatively good, right? And Luxray, I don't know why they like that guy to be a control card, but he's got 2 good cards in the format right now. 310 HP is a little lackluster, kind of the same as Greninja, right? Like that extra 10 HP does mean something in like a meta game right now. Like if they were 330 HP like Charizard is, they'd be a lot better, but they're not. Palafin, this deck sucks. Don't play Palafin. Lost Goo, this deck sucks. Don't play Lost Goo. Sinistcha, this deck sucks. Don't play Sinistcha. Pidgeot Control. I don't know how to feel about this deck, to be honest. I think it's probably like a mid B tier deck, right? I think it's probably just shy of the top 10, but I think it's relatively still fine. Pidgeot Control, it counters everything. We know what it does. And then Magcargo, definitely also D tier. So this is what we have going on here. We have one too many decks to show you everything at once, but this is kind of where I'm at in terms of the meta. Let me know what you guys think down below. Please make sure, guys, to like, subscribe, comment. Did I leave any decks out? Let me know. Did I rank anything too low? Let me know. Anything too high? Like I said, let me know. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Have a great day.
Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.